Welcome to the Screen the Screener College Basketball Podcast with your hosts, Mike Randall and Gus Kearns.
Welcome in, listeners, to the Screen the Screener College Basketball Podcast, where we're always talking everything college hoops. You could have been anywhere else on the dial, but you chose to be here with us, Mike and Gus. Thank you for letting us be your college basketball conduit throughout the week. Mike, how's everything going over there? We've had a little bit of a roller coaster ride here. Here we go again, Mike.
Yep. Here we go again. And I'm trying to figure out, is Auburn going to blow this cover? Auburn, they were getting 5. I felt pretty good. I've had a good night. I've had a good couple days. And now Arkansas is pulling ahead. I mean, come on. Auburn, they were up 43-31 at halftime. Come on.
More games, more results to analyze for the listeners out there. And it sounds like we just have a couple of more things. We have to ask again, what in the world are we doing here in this particular game of college basketball? It is madness. The things make no sense. I guess we have to let's start with the number one team in the country. Gonzaga tortures St. Mary's in the 73-59 win, where Ballo tortures those who might wager a tiny bit on a missed alley-oop in the final moments of the game. Mike, Couple takeaways here. Overall in the Zags, the near miss for all wagerers and bettors out there. The Gales shooting less than 35% from the field. The Zags dealing with foul trouble successfully, or just Corey Kispert being kind of Corey Kispert awesome. What do you got from that quick takeaway from St. Mary's?
All right, listen, no one is beating Gonzaga in the regular season. We know that. Gus, I was excited, though, to at least see St. Mary's provide us with a little bit of hope. I mean, they're not talented, St. Mary's, and they did hang around. Okay. So if Gonzaga played a talented team in the Elite Eight, okay, it's not a steamroll yet. So I was excited to see it because we do want competitive balance. I don't want Gonzaga to win every game until the Final Four by 25, which is what it looks like they're going to do. Right. So I was inspired by St. Mary's. Randy Bennett did a nice job. No, they weren't winning. The cover was annoying because they also St. Mary's banged a 3. If any one of these two things do not happen, although listen, Gus, I did win the Kansas cover on Baylor, so I guess I really can't.
We'll get to that next. Don't worry.
I can't really complain about that. But like, I was excited to see the St. Mary's actually put up a little bit of a fight. Kispert became Kispert in the second half, and it's fine. And it was just fine. I was nice to see them actually maybe have a bead of sweat in the first half before they went and just totally took the game over. Fine.
I agree. I think it was interesting to see the struggle, and it was also revealing to see how they solved the struggle, even with not their A team out there with a little bit of foul trouble. He had to mix and match, and you like to see Coach Few kind of figure that equation out when he needed to mix and match. And again, the blessing that is Andrew Nebhard being eligible.
Right. Really coming off the bench.
Yeah, it really showed in this game. And then we need to balance the equation here for those who like to wager and talk a little bit about that Baylor-Kansas game. The Bears still looked the part. Kansas looked a little bit out of sorts and a notch below. And how great was that last second shot for the cover, huh?
Yeah, you know what, Gus? It's just nice that it went our way once in a while.
Yeah.
I will tell you what annoyed me is, of course, when you write a game up and you get it ready, you say to yourself, like, there's something that can't happen. Okay. I vaguely remember, Gus, picking West Virginia over Kentucky when they were undefeated in the tournament. I think I sent you guys and put on Twitter John Denver's Mountain Mama.
Of course.
And then like the big guy in the Sweet 16 got 2 fouls right away. And I texted you, it's over. And they got blown out. But Kentucky did lose to Wisconsin that year, but fine. In this game, the one thing that can't happen is McCormick can't get in foul trouble because they don't have any depth. Listen, Mitch Lightfoot played very well, but David McCormick and the fouls he got, Gus, he's trying to take a charge. I mean, it's just like ridiculous stuff. He only had one game prior to this where he had 4 fouls. He can't get in foul trouble. They fought back. Self was right. They had a great second half, and they still lost. But yes, I appreciate, I think it was Maceo Teague dribbling the ball out of bounds. And then a 3-pointer at the buzzer. Thank you very much.
That part was beautiful. I felt like that those two games kind of balanced each other out there as far as the folks out there who like to wager. And let's go through a couple of the other like stops that we need to hit. I'll ask like who's in trouble or what the trouble is. Mike, Illinois, are they in trouble or are they just part of a legit Big Ten conference? Are we worried about Illinois?
We're not, because I mean, how many times have I said this stat, Gus? That the year Texas Tech made the finals, they lost 3 games in a row. Look, Illinois is really good, and they're a title contender. They are 10-5 overall and 6-3 in the Big Ten. Do you know why you and I both think, if we bring up Illinois, that something's wrong? Because of Gonzaga and Baylor. That's the reason. Like, they're not in that class, obviously, but they have they have a late game score in DeSumo. They're shooting 40% from 3-point range. They play top 25 defense. They're 25th in Ken Palm in defense. I know you have to be top 20 in both if you win the title, but UConn didn't that one year. So, okay, fine. But no, they're really good. It's the old adage, like Patrick Ewing is a really good player, but he wasn't Jordan. Illinois is really good. They can absolutely make a Final Four, but they certainly are not in Gonzaga Baylor's class right now. So people think something's wrong. That's all.
I think that's fair. And I love the comparison. And then, Mike, let's go to the next team that maybe we could talk about putting in that tier, and that's Alabama. This is getting like a little bit nutty. Is the rest of the SEC in trouble with Alabama?
How about Mrs. Randall's feelings, by the way? Remember I told that story?
Talk about spot on.
I mean, she just said it. She said it. So it was one of those, like, walking by the
casual
TV.
Too. Very casual. Right?
Walked by the TV. She picked up a toy. She goes, Alabama this year. I'm like, what are you talking about? College basketball hasn't even started yet. She goes, I'm telling you, Alabama. And then it's like she went to, and then of course, the first two games, disaster. And now buzzsaw. And I put out on the Action app the other night, I try to put up like all these stats, to try to prove why I'm doing my pick. And then for the Alabama, I just put up, you don't stand in front of an oncoming train. Alabama +1 at LSU, whatever it was. Fine. Yes, the rest of the SEC is in trouble because they're doing this without Jordan Bruner. John Petty turns into Larry Bird. 23 threes, ties an SEC record. How is that not the record, by the way? Whatever. They look great. They dribble attack. Nate Oates has Buffalo on steroids now. Problem. Big problem. They're awesome. And they are a team. I imagine them playing Gonzaga. Could we get that right now? What's the over-under? 205? It could be 205. I'm not exaggerating. I mean,
that's why I'm kind of giggling over here. Because I'm imagining triple digits on both sides of the scoreboard and just like enjoying it like gleefully. Like, let's have that, please.
Gus, I think the over-under is at least 190. I can't believe I'm saying that.
I think it has to be.
It makes the Citadel VMI look like Virginia versus whoever, Texas Tech. Unbelievable.
I like that you just compared it to the last championship game that we actually saw.
You like how I name dropped the Citadel, by the way? All right.
No, I love that you named that. Please.
Yeah.
You have to. I totally agree with Alabama. You hit on something that's really crucial. Everybody's going to point to that 3-point number. The other part of their offensive attack that is unbelievably efficient is the way they attack off the dribble, and their guards live in the lane. They absorb contact, they take it to the hole, and that's where they're going to try to get their scoring opportunities. Much like this, to be honest, this Alabama team and mini performance that we're seeing here is a little bit more of what I thought the college game might look like this year with these gyms that have much fewer fans in them because of what we saw in the NBA bubble and how well teams shot like they were shooting in just an open gym. So I think Alabama kind of keyed into this and found a way to be like, you know what? This is kind of like open gym. We're just going to drill it from deep, and we're going to keep drilling it from deep. And if we don't drill it from deep, we're going to take it to the hole, get fouled, and make all of our free throws. I really love what they're doing. Is it sustainable? We'll wait and see. That's why we watch. But right now, they're playing like the most exciting team in the country.
I love when you give me the name of the pod so I don't have to put it together late at night. Alabama Open Gym. I mean, I just can't believe you said that.
Perfect. Excellent.
By the way, Sharif Cooper just missed a layup with 1 second left. Arkansas is going to win. They were up 74-73, which means to cover. But so unless Arkansas makes 2 and Auburn makes a full court 3, Auburn's going to lose. But Cooper at 25 tonight. I mean,
again, I think we talked about this in the last podcast, but Cooper is an absolute joy to watch. An unbelievable bundle of energy in the game. But the one part that's that's missing from his unbelievable performance thus far is his late game heroics. It seems like that's the only missing part of his equation of being an elite player in our sport. If he can get that figured out, then I think that Auburn might actually be dangerous because they can kind of run up and down and play with anybody when he's playing like this and averaging over 22 a game and literally pushing the pace and dominating the tempo of any game inside the SEC.
Alabama does not want to see Auburn again. in they don't. That's not the team they want to see.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think. He missed it on purpose. Arkansas got the rebound. Okay, that's it. Yeah, but the cover to the window. Cover.
I love the in-pod reporting. That's awesome.
Sharif Cooper's amazing. He may be the most valuable player in all of college basketball. Think about that for a second. He could be the most valuable.
If they make the tournament, I think you have an argument.
You take Garza off, Iowa still makes a tournament. They're not that good, but they still make a tournament. Auburn's not making anything without Sharif Cooper.
You're really keyed into something here. So okay, ready? Who's more important for their team? Is it Cooper or is it Petty?
Oh, God. Give me Bruner back. I don't think it's even close.
Okay.
You want to say no Bruner? Because there's been games where Petty has not made shots. And
correct.
Shackelford makes shots, and Herb Jones is going left. Nobody knows he's left. He can go left anytime he wants. I don't know.
Perfect. You're making my point. You're making the point for the listeners. Like, everybody's fawning over how awesome John Petty is after hitting 8 threes, and we think that Cooper is more important than Petty.
John Petty and the Heartbreakers. All right.
By the way, I know we talked about this before the podcast. Could you name another traveling Wilbury besides Tom Petty?
I can.
I think you can too.
I can. Bob Dylan?
Yes. Okay. Very well done.
Ooh.
Well done. There we go. Well done.
Moving on.
You called the Minnesota mini game, the Michigan Minnesota game. Why did you lean that way? And there's no way in the world that I thought that Leon Rams would absolutely outplay Hunter Dickinson by such a margin. I mean, he is from Drake, so I guess that makes sense. They're still undefeated. So it makes sense that a Drake transfer would absolutely outplay one of the best freshmen in the country. Mike, what was your thinking there? And then how did you end up like settling on that and saying, you know what, I think this is the way this game is going to go?
Everybody regresses. At some point, everybody has a clunker. The year the Bulls were really good with Jordan, remember, he used to joke it couldn't be Toronto with Damon Stoudemire. Like everyone stumbles, and Michigan's been so hot and so good, and they have turned the ball over a lot. Now, listen, I picked against them like I believe 1, 2, 3, 4 straight times, so blind squirrel. But I think the turnovers in conference are a little bothersome. They are ridiculously hot from 3. And listen, guys, I put it out. I mean, Minnesota at home. I mean, like that's as good a reason as any. Right. And I mean, it's a little buy low, sell high spot. They absolutely destroyed Wisconsin. They come in cocky, and all of a sudden Minnesota plays well. I didn't, if you believe the premise that Michigan is not going to go undefeated in conference, which I believe, why not at Minnesota? Like maybe at Purdue, I guess, but at the time I didn't think Purdue was what they are now. So yeah, I just said, give me the points. And it was, Gus, that magic number I told you. For some reason, teams at home getting 5, 5.5. It's frisky. Yep. It's frisky. I don't know why. It just is. I literally in the action app just do it blindly now. I don't, because I just, unless there's a compelling reason, like I just don't think it's going to happen. Like, Drake at the 72-10 Bulls, I would take Drake, but unless there's some blind, I'm just taking it. So it checked all the boxes. Bounce back, overconfident, coming off the big win, Minnesota home, magic number. Sure.
Makes sense. Plus, you have Marcus Carr in the equation.
Marcus Carr, right.
Yeah. Since we mentioned Drake and we're speaking undefeated, they're on a COVID pause. Let's go to one of our other undefeated darlings, which is Winthrop. And they marched not 1, but 2 wins over the Blue Hose Presbyterian. Mike, do we know why the Blue Hose? What's your thoughts here? What can you tell us that you know about the Blue Hose that dropped 2 games to undefeated Winthrop?
Do you know I looked this up? Because I really don't have a life. I swear.
I love it.
They used to wear blue socks. Okay. And that's why they're called the Blue Hose. By the way, it is not HOES out there. It's HOSE. Okay. That's why they are called the Blue Hose. Presbyterian has actually played them pretty well under Quentin Farrell the last couple of years. And I do like Rayshawn Harrison. Rayshawn Harrison, freshman, attacks the basket, super athletic, slick, great scorer, turns the ball over about 9 times a game, but a lot of fun to watch. And listen, I have been betting Winthrop, and Gus, they have not been covering big numbers. They started the year on fire, and then Gardner-Webb home didn't cover. Second game against Charleston Southern, Philandrous Fleming, I don't know if you've heard of him.
We love Philandrous Fleming.
Did not cover. Okay, Longwood did not cover. Longwood, I mean, like eventually, like you got to say, listen, they're just
get off the train, yeah,
right. Like they're great and they're amazing and they're 15-0 and Rock Hill and all that stuff. But Presbyterian has played them close. They lost by 2 last year and 5, and 16's a lot, man. That's really what it was. So they won by 14, and then they won tonight by 12. So to the window.
So I think that the biggest question here I have for you, and this goes back to your coaching background, is for the first game against Presbyterian, point guard, the leader in the nation in assists, Chandler Waldron, was not starting and came off the bench. Mike, what's the move there when you're undefeated and you put one of your best players on the bench to come off? What do you think was going on there? What do you think the thinking is there? Why mess with perfection, right?
I'm going to tell you the reason. I think Pat Kelsey's a really good coach. He has totally infuriated my brother-in-law when he spurred UMass. That's bothered him. So he definitely roots against him. But I understand why. I think Pat Kelsey's a little worried. I do. I think he sees his team against a horrific Charleston Southern team record-wise, almost losing on the road. And Fleming fouled out with 4 minutes left, and they won by 2. So, was Charleston Southern 1-12? So I think that's concerning. You go to Gardner-Webb. You play Gardner-Webb home. Gardner-Webb is in both games really close. You play home to Longwood. They're 260th in KenPom. You got to beat them. First game is frisky. So I think he's trying to shake it up. I think he's saying to himself, guys, we're not going the right way. We got Radford on the 11th and 12th. That's going to be a massive game. They got Gardner-Webb 2 more times, I think, unless the schedule is wrong here. You never know nowadays. Asheville's not going to be easy. I saw them against Charleston Southern. They bombed the heck out of Charleston Southern, press the full court. They'll get up and down. By the way, hit the over on that one. So I think he's just trying to shake it up, man. I think he's trying to say, listen, we're playing for keeps. We're playing for the automatic bid in the Big South. And we're not going to continue to beat Longwood and Presbyterian by 5. And I'm not going to say, okay.
You know what? Another thing, and you might hit on this with Kelsey being one of those like forward-thinking coaches. Who knows what's going to happen with conference tournaments? Maybe that automatic bid gets awarded to the regular season.
I didn't think of that. That's a good point. Yeah.
Right. So maybe that's in the back of his head as well. So I'm totally with you. I think he was trying to hit something before it hit him. And the thing that might hit him is that unsuspecting loss and would crush his undefeated season or an opportunity at least in conference. And another thing to pay attention to with Winthrop is a freshman forward, Kelly. He's actually starting to figure it out a little bit. Does a couple of nice things on the wing, can go down in the post. Pretty impressed with him so far. Mike, UVA just smacked around Clemson, and they put up 85 points in the process with very little trouble. Do you guess maybe that UVA had an issue with Clemson owning that number 1 defensive metric and just wanted to say, like, yeah, okay, you think you're so fancy with your KenPom number? Take that.
Yes, and I'm mad at myself. We were such Tony Bennett fans, and we predicted they would come back to win the title. And I didn't see this coming, Gus, because you know my thoughts with Brad Brommel, okay?
I do.
And they burned me a few times in the betting department. They burned me against Morehead State. I thought Morehead State would cover. Mm-hmm. Florida State, that was an impressive win at home against Florida State. Miami on the road, they got them. And I just said, and even North Carolina State, who I thought would cover. I'm like, you know what? I'm in. I even said it on the Action Network pod. I'm done fading Clemson. And Tony Bennett comes in and says, number one. Babe? And by the way, they've been in a tailspin. How did I not take Georgia Tech tonight? Georgia Tech coming off of COVID. Everybody's like, oh, Clemson's going to be let's go. Is Clemson good enough to be let's go? Are they good enough? Sims has been MIA for a while. Right. I like the guard from Fordham who can make the big shots at the end of games, but they are anemic offensively. And now Virginia sent them into tailspin. Gus, they lost by 18 to Georgia Tech tonight. Come on, that can't happen.
I'm with you. I think that, when I was talking to Luke Neer down on his radio show in Charlotte.
Great job, by the way. It's a great interview.
It's always fun talking to Luke. It's honored to get on his show and talk some hoops for sure. The one thing that he asked me was, what do you think about Clemson? And I was like, number 12 is the absolute wrong number next to them. They're not the 12th best team in the country. They might not even be like the 17th best team in the country. I thought they got a little inflated and they were a little overvalued. Mike, speaking of somebody that was overvalued, maybe is Tennessee in that boat after that performance with Florida? Florida is really working some roster troubles here, and they just absolutely smacked around Tennessee in a kind of ugly fashion. I didn't predict this. I was in on Tennessee kind of being one of those teams that you could talk about making a Final Four, but they did not look the part. I know Vescovi was hurt a little bit and wasn't there to run the show for them. But I'll tell you what, when you can't score, it was like painful to watch that Tennessee team, and I've really enjoyed watching them thus far this season. Mike, is this more on Florida or more on Tennessee, or maybe a combination of both?
Yeah, Mike White stuck my little stat where he's like only 40% against the spread at home in conference games. Stuck that one right to me. This was a bad loss for Tennessee. Maybe, Gus, I put Tennessee in that upper echelon too early. They can't score. They cannot score. Their defense is not a Virginia level from a few years ago. Mm-hmm. No Keontae Johnson for Florida. No Scotty Lewis for Florida.
Right. This makes no sense.
Bad loss. Period. End of story. Bad loss. Great win for Florida. Mike White, give them credit. They deserve it. That was a great win. You beat them by 25, whatever it was. But there's a problem because Tennessee's got to score, and you're not beating Alabama, as we saw, unless you can score. It's a problem. It took Tennessee out of that second tier for me. I put them below Illinois right now, even though they have, kind of similar profiles. I put them below.
Okay. I think that's a fair place to place them. And, I think podcast friend Eric Fawcett is smiling somewhere after that nice Florida performance. I bet he is, kind of grinning ear to ear and saying, where has that been all season? And I think another team that we have to maybe include in that tier that we were just talking about is Villanova. Welcome back, Villanova, from your COVID pause. Those games with Seton Hall are always a battle. It defines the Big East being a grind. That game obviously illustrated that. It went down to the final seconds, final shot, final possession. Love watching these Seton Hall Villanova games. Are just they're just such a joy to watch as a Big East fan. But I think as a college basketball fan, you have to get into that. I'm going to say one excellent coach and another okay coach going head to head. But I'll tell you what, Villanova still looks the part, and they looked okay after their long pause. Did they look maybe a little rusty on the defensive end? Maybe a tiny bit. Maybe were a couple of things amiss on the offensive end. Yeah, I think you can plug that in too. But when you're an elite team like Villanova, you figure out a way to win that game, and that's exactly what they did against Seton Hall, who's sitting, I think, tied second inside the Big East currently.
Partner, we've talked about the matchup problems that come when you have a really good power forward. Historically, when teams have had that Corliss Williamson, that Danier Abrams, Boston College represent, it's an impossible matchup. Sandro is an impossible matchup for Villanova. Not their style, not the way your typical top teams. He would be a tough matchup for Alabama. He's just an odd guy. 23 points, 8 rebounds, 5 assists, really impressive. But Villanova is the champion that they are, and they found a way to get through this game. Gillespie plays the sax for 22. Perfect from the line. Robinson Earl was out of it, maybe at COVID, 8 points. Samuels came back. He was on quarantine, had 20 points. So when they got, Seton Hall was really close. The line was 10. It's stupid. It's not going to be 10 when Seton Hall, who's been, like you said, has had some nice wins. And I can't get on Willard. He's had some nice wins this year. Beat Xavier away. Georgetown home took care of business. Of course, Marquette, my thoughts on them. They've done a nice job, and this was a good competitive game. Now they go to Butler. I think there's going to be a tester for them this Friday. I like the job Willard's done. I like Seton Hall. Sandro's a really tough matchup, and Villanova got the win that they needed to get if they're really an elite team. And yes, I think they are in the second tier behind Baylor and Gonzaga. Yes, absolutely.
I agree with that. I agree with your final placement of them, of where you're going to put them in that tier. I think they belong there for sure. And, maybe that's the same tier that we're going to place Alabama now. Holy smokes. I can't even believe that. All right, Mike, anything else that you need to air out this week in the week that was college hoops? Do we need a little Randall reacts for a couple of things here that you just want to get off your chest, that you feel like you need to share with the listeners that either bugged you or caught your eye? Where are you at?
Yeah. Can I get something off my chest from tonight, Gus?
Yeah.
Remember last week, and I'll bring this up on the Action Pod tomorrow night. Remember I told you that I should fade that Colorado future? You know what I mean, babe? Well, tonight, Colorado takes a little trip up to Washington. Okay. Washington's been one of the worst power conference teams in the country, I think. Right?
1-11?
1-11. Well, my friend, they now have a win in the Pac-12. Nice little 84-80 win over Colorado. You're giving up 84 points to Washington? Okay. And to quote Seinfeld, you want to be my Final Four team? You're giving up 84 to Washington? Listen, I I just have questions about them. Tad Boyle, okay. McKinley Wright's great, but you give up 84. You're going to tell me you coming in this game, you were like top 25 defensive efficiency per KenPom, and you can't stop Washington tonight. And by the way, Gus, Washington, 12 of 25 from three-point range against Colorado's defense. Okay. 27 for Marcus Jonas. Okay. 14 for Bay, Quade Green at 11, Eric Stevenson 17, Final Four fraud. Sorry, fellas, not there yet. That's all I got.
I thought that'd be the one team that we talked about last week where, I'm not down with that. I don't think I can get there with that team. And I think that illustrates this loss to Washington totally illustrates that. Listen, the one thing and this brings up a point that we talked about on the podcast, throughout the past seasons is the reason that our sport is fantastic. And we'll just highlight it again really quickly, and then we'll move on to our next little segment here. But Mike, the beauty of our sport is it gives each team and each program 3 specific starting lines that they can focus in on during the season. All is not lost. This is not college football. If you drop a game, you're out of the playoff picture. I mean, everybody holds that kernel of hope at the start of the season. Just like every other sport, right? Just like the soccer season, just like the NBA season, just like the NFL season. We're going to sneak into the playoffs. We're going to make that wild card. We're going to make the playing game. Whatever the thing is, you have that twinkle of hope. Then, if things don't go according to plan in the non-conference and you hit a bunch of road bumps, guess what? You have another opportunity once you hit conference play. Now, conference play is off to this rocky, unpredictable start due to the current nature of the world and, COVID-19 really wreaking havoc on a number of different programs. So there's maybe not the opportunity that has been there in the past. And then, of course, the final opportunity and start line that every program has is once you get that invite to that postseason tournament. Once you get into your conference tournament and your conference gives the automatic invite to that conference tournament winner, you get hot for 4 or 5 days, boom, you're in the big dance. So there are 3 separate opportunities that teams can kind of refocus and get, start over again and just turn the page. And maybe Washington looked at that game with Colorado as one of those opportunities. That's the way it has to be, I think, right?
Yeah, I agree. You have some of these great laws that you come up with and rules for college basketball, like the too many efforts one, which I've totally stolen. And that's a great way to look at it too. I think you have to look at the big picture. You have to look at macro, and history repeats itself. It goes back to the Michigan-Minnesota talk. Is Michigan going to go undefeated? No. Then what are they going to lose? I don't know, probably here. And that's a great way to look at it is that stick to your priors. Don't get take lock, but stick to your priors. Thought Colorado was a little overvalued. Washington, I think they were laying 10. Gus, I think something like that. So I'm not saying I thought Washington would win. No, I did not think that.
Right.
84 points to Washington, and you want to be my Final Four team?
That's troubling. I don't know if I can get there. All right, Mike, what else you got here? Do we need to talk some shots?
I think we do. I think we need to talk some shots.
All right, Mike, if we were talking some shots, if you're going to, we'll try to keep it clean here. But if you were just ordering a singular shot at the bar and you were bellied up on the stool, what's the one that you would go with?
Yeah, so I'm going to throw a couple at you now, big guy. If I was taking a shot at the bar, and I did one actually this weekend, Baby Guinness, Bailey's.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a little sweet tooth there, but I'll go with that.
All right, very nice.
And I always like Sambuca. You know that, right?
Yes, it's true. Okay, yes, I forgot about the Sambuca. Baby Guinness, though, excellent choice.
I want to give you a couple here, partner. I just want to pick your brain. I want rapid reaction, okay? So I wrote down some guys. You need a last-second shot. I'm going to give you a group of 3 guys. Okay. And just give me your gut reaction. I don't know if you need a 3, a 2, whatever pops to mind. Okay. You need a last second basket for a team to win the game. You're taking Marcus Carr, Minnesota, Jared Butler, Baylor, or your guy Kispert, Gonzaga.
Oh, geez. Oh my gosh. Okay. Gut reaction. I would have to say Marcus Carr.
I agree with you.
Out of those 3, I think he would give the biggest opportunity for shot creation, whether it be a step back or a drive to the hole. You would trust Butler's accuracy and clutch gene. If you had Kispert running off, like a floppy set and you could get him the ball there, yeah, but I don't know if he'd be able to create that last second shot solo against an excellent defender. We've seen Marcus Carr do it time and time again, where he creates something out of nothing. And he lives for taking bad shots. So you almost want that, like, kind of like, yeah, I don't care about this gene in him. So maybe I would take Marcus Carr over the two players that just might be first-team All-Americans.
I was just going to say that. They're going to be first-team All-Americans, and Carr probably won't be. Probably second or third, but I agree with you. My reaction was Carr.
Okay. That was a tough first question, by the way.
Yeah, tough first question. Another set of three guys. So I try to group them by, ability level, because I'm not going to say, Jared Butler, or, a couple of guys I like from Iona. I'm going to make it consistent.
Okay.
Let's little interesting one here. Marion Jackson, Toledo, Grant Sherfield. You talked about on your pod, by the way, around the one that went around the country, the pit stops, which was great, of Nevada, or Mike Smith, now running the point, shooting real well out in Michigan.
Ooh, okay. This is a fabulous question as well. My heart says Mike Smith. But if I was drawing up the play in the timeout on the sidelines, I would draw it up for Grant Sherfield.
Yeah, I thought you'd say Sherfield. That's totally fine. You know my love for Marion Jackson. So
I do.
I can't go against him. Plus, I also saw him sticking to Kent State, so I can't say anything. But I think Sherfield is the correct choice and the most popular choice. And I thought that's what you would say. Totally reasonable.
Just because he gets his spots on the floor. He's a 3-level scorer. He does have a pull-up game and a floater game. Not saying that Jackson and Smith don't, but I just think that if we're trying to win that thing and get a last-second shot, I'll give it to Sherfield. That sounds good.
And how about last one here, partner? If you need a three, given what went down last night, this may be a moot point. John Petty, if you heard of him, of Alabama, Spencer Littleson of Toledo, or Sasha Stefanovic for three from Purdue.
If I needed a three, I think I would go Stefanovic.
Wow. Okay.
If we throw Kispert into this equation, then we go there.
Yeah, I couldn't put him in there. That's why. Yes, I kept it out on purpose. Yeah.
Right. That makes total sense. But yeah, I think after viewing what they did to LSU, you almost have to take Petty. I mean, he was creating off the dribble. He's taking like NBA, 30, 27 footers. But no, I think if I needed a make, I think I'd go Sasha.
And if you needed a rebound, Bassie of Western Kentucky, Isaac Conte of Hofstra, or Kofi out in Illinois?
You know what? I'm going to take option D. I'm going to go with our old friend from Austin P. If rebound, I would ask Terry Taylor to go get it.
Scary Terry. Very good. Very good.
These are great questions. I like those. Those were hard.
Excellent. Gus, let me pick your brain a little bit here at some matchups. What do you say? A couple weekend
that sounds perfect. Yeah, let's give the listeners a little bit of a rundown for what they might see this weekend.
I'm going to give you one off the script for tonight. I wrote it up for action. Just get me your thoughts, Gus. Look, I've researched Indiana at Iowa during the Archie Miller days, and those games have been close. Either Indiana has won the game, and I think they're 3-3, or they've lost by an average of 5.5 points.
Okay.
Gus, I can't get there tomorrow night. The line's 10, went to 10.5, and it's growing. I don't see it. They are horrific, Indiana. They're allowing over 40% from three-point range in conference.
Ugh.
They allowed almost 40% to Nebraska on the road. They won that game, but Nebraska's second worst three-point shooting team in conference. Iowa is scalding hot. Oh, by the way, they have the player of the year inside. I don't see it. I don't see it. I can't. I like the underdogs, and it's always fun to take the points, Gus, right? Because if they win outright, you win, or if they cover. So 2/3 of the way is the underdog that you can win. I can't see a partner. I think that they'll be gamey, and I think eventually there'll be a 12-point run, and that'll be it. And I expect a 15-point win for Iowa tomorrow night.
I'm having a hard time getting there as well. 9 times out of 10, when Indiana is going to play somebody, they're going to have the best player on the floor. That's not going to be the case for this game. And it may not be the case times 2. With Wieskamp, I think, kind of like we were talking, I think Wieskamp owns some slight Corey Kispert equity in some strange way. I think their games might hold a couple of similarities, obviously to a lesser degree, but and then who's the second banana? Who's going to back up Trey Jackson Davis with like a double-digit point game on really efficient shooting numbers? And if we just pay attention to tempo, like Iowa is still going to push. they're going to get their stuff. So let's just let's just pay attention to what they've done, in other places when the game has been, when they've lost, Gonzaga went crazy on them, but they still put up their points. So they're going to push pace and they're going to dominate the tempo and dictate the tempo. I don't think Indiana has enough playmakers and enough scorers to really match what they're going to do. And let's just say they score 83, 84, 85 points. Are we saying that Indiana is going to get to 75? Maybe, but maybe not. Like I can't get there either. If I was going to lean one way or the other here, I think I would have to take Iowa, and especially at home. And we've seen these kind of kooky games. We talked about the Florida-Tennessee game. We talked about the Alabama-LSU game. We talked about these games that have these such large margins, and you try to predict those, that when you see that blowout coming, I don't know if this is going to be a blowout situation, but I just can't see Indiana keeping up with Iowa. Does that make sense? Where's your head at with this?
Yep, I'm with you. A lot of points, conference game, don't have a choice. I have to take Iowa and see what happens. I expect them to blow it out. The numbers tell me Indiana, and the numbers came through. I was talking to big man on campus. The old Shaka covered 5 times at Kansas. Should have saw that ahead of time. This one, I think they reversed the trend. Weekend matchups, Michigan at Purdue. Quote John Malkovich, Gus and Rounders. Purdue continues to hang around in every game. They've come through a difficult gauntlet of that schedule. They had 5 road games in their 6 matchups, and somehow, Gus, they've won 4 in a row. Beat Michigan State, beat Indiana, beat Penn State, beat Ohio State. That's impressive. It's never pretty, slopping it around, screens, putbacks, loose balls, but they're winning. One of the most under-the-radar freshmen in the country, Jaden Ivey, 4-star prospect from Indiana, was second-best player in Indiana coming out, 10th best shooting guard in the class, nailed a huge 3, basically cleared people out, Gus, and banged it to beat Ohio State last night. Don't look now, 11-5 overall, 6-3 in the Big Ten, 3 home games coming up over the next 4. Purdue, Michigan, frisky?
I think it's a little frisky. You read down, who Purdue has taken down. And these are all teams that we thought that were going to be pretty decent, whether it be Michigan State, Indiana, Ohio State. I don't think they're going to be scared. And I think this is one of the situations that's going to go the opposite way of the game that you just mentioned. I think Purdue will influence a little bit of tempo and pace here and slow Michigan down a bit. And the one thing that Michigan can do is rebound the ball. But guess what else Purdue can do? Purdue can definitely match them. I mean, so I think if we take a look at Trayvon Williams like that's going to be a problem that they need to solve. Does Dickinson have a bounce back game here? Yeah, I think this one's fishy. This might be one just to stay away from. And I think if you're leaning one way or the other, I think Purdue might actually try to slow it down. You know what happens, and we talked about this with the Villanova-Seton Hall game. You know what happens in these matchups. Like the teams are going to know each other. They're going to know what each other are going to run. Purdue is going to know what Juwan Howard's going to run, and Howard is going to know what Purdue's going to run. So they're going to know the play, and they can probably call it out. So there's going to be that anticipation. So who's going to make the best in-game adjustments? Maybe I lean a little bit of Painter there over Howard. Maybe that's where we go.
Heading to the MAC, Siena versus St. Peter's this weekend. Saints, Gus, are one of the last remaining undefeated teams in the country. 6-0 in conference. This is a big hurdle. Peacocks lost 2 in a row at Canisius. They're going to be very frisky at this game. Siena's looking good. They started late because of COVID, but they're 6-0 in conference. Iona's 3-1. It's an odd conference, man, Gus. Siena's 6-0. Iona was only 3-1. Monmouth played 10 games at 10-3. So Siena home, back-to-back games, Friday, Saturday, St. Peter's. They slip up in either one of these?
Good question. And I think just to illustrate, I think that what you said there illustrates how much COVID-19 has influenced the Northeast part of our home, speaking to how many programs have had to shut down. So we'll go a couple different directions here. As a former Peacock from grad school, I'll always be a part Peacock in my heart. The Saints have one of the best players in the country in Jalen Pickett. So I think if you lean one way or the other, as much as Coach Holloway is doing a great job with the Peacocks, he's a Jersey guy. He knows the landscape. I think they're not going to have somebody that can match up with Pickett. So I think if you're going to lean one way, I would lean Siena here. But I wouldn't be surprised if one of these games turns up to be like one of those 63-59 games where, you look up and at halftime it's like 29-27. I could kind of see that happening in one of these games. So maybe if you're going to peek at one thing with this particular matchup inside the MAC is maybe take a peek at the under.
Perfecto. You got a couple you want to throw at me?
Yeah, sure. How about Kansas and Oklahoma? Kansas is going to visit Oklahoma. I feel like Oklahoma is going to keep it in range here, and maybe this is just the recent history stuck in my head from Baylor, but I feel like maybe Kansas is showing a couple of warts here. They're showing a little bit of their deficiencies on the offensive end. We know that they're going to defend, but maybe they're just a few too many flaws this year for the Jayhawks. So I like Oklahoma keeping it in range here, and if the number looks right, and you're going to lean one way or the other. What do you say with Kansas and Oklahoma, Mike?
This is such a compelling game,
isn't it?
Bet.
Yes.
To bet, especially because Kansas into this year and through most of the beginning of the year has been money on the road, especially against the spread. Self on the road. Texas Tech away, no problem. TCU could have given me 25, still would have covered. Then they stumble against Oak State. That was odd because you figure Cunningham's going to have a clunker as a freshman. Nope. Baylor, they were gamey, but Baylor was so good. This is so hard. Gus, this is a real tough one because I like Lon. I told you about Oklahoma. Right now, my lean is Kansas.
Okay.
It is not that Kansas is going to lose 3 road games in a row. It's not. But, boy, I want to pick Oklahoma in the worst way. But I just don't think that Kansas can go from the dominant Big 12, especially road program, to 3 consecutive road losses. I can't see it. Ken Pom, by the way, has it right now, Oklahoma by 1. That would be
really?
That would be a Kansas take for me, yes.
I think if that's the number, then I think you go that direction. Mike, let's stick back to the Big East. Let's go UConn and Creighton. Of course, UConn is dealing with a couple of injuries, so it's not the big guard matchup that we're used to inside the Big East with two of the best players in the conference going head-to-head with Bouknight and Zagorowski. Creighton going to bounce back against this game against Providence, and does UConn figure out a way to stay competitive without their best player on the floor?
No, they do not. Creighton's going to be super angry in this game. They have played away at Butler and blew it. No Zagorowski. Zeg comes back against a desperate Providence team. Nate Watson looked like Shaq tonight with 29 points. UConn's going to come in. They're successful. They play well. They have good metrics. So it's going to be Ken Pom has it at 4. This is 90 by Creighton and Creighton in a blowout. That's what this game is.
I think this is one of those games as well, like we talked
about. Without Bouknight. That's why.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I think you can play some of the same cards that you played with the Kansas-Oklahoma game. Are we really going to look at Creighton dropping 3 inside the Big East in a row? I find that hard to believe. Let's go to Clemson visiting Florida State. We talked a little bit about Clemson earlier.
Why are you going to ask me about Florida State? How dare you do that?
Because I know these are like 2 of your bugaboo.
Why are you doing this?
That you can't figure out. That's why we did this. I love Florida State in this spot. I think Scotty Barnes is going to absolutely dominate. Obviously, they're going to have enough size to match up with Sims on the other end. So I love Florida State here. And, when we talked last podcast about what teams or programs you might trust with this odd combination of coaching, returning players, and culture, Florida State fell into that category for me. So I'm not going to get off them here. I think I'm going to stick with them. I like Florida State at home against Clemson.
Barnes was hurt against North Carolina, didn't play. I actually got the NC State game right for Florida State. So I have actually, Gus, been able to get a Florida State game right. However, I did pick Louisville on Monday. Okay, so we went back. I like Florida State too. Folks,
do with that what you will, listeners.
I like Florida State also, but okay. Yeah.
Ohio State and Wisconsin, 2 ranked teams.
It would just, Gus, I'm sorry, it would be the classic Leonard Hamilton spot to lose this game. It would just be it's just so classic. It's like 75 with a minute left. It's so it's going to be like 6 points. I can tell. Yes, I'm taking Florida State. Burn a dollar bill. Good.
I think that's the exact breakdown I was looking for when I put that game on.
Oh, my
Let's finish up with the last three, and then we'll get out of here and wish the listeners well. Ohio State and Wisconsin, two ranked teams, Big Ten. Is this a game where Wisconsin is going to kind of say like, oh, man, we can't let that game against Michigan be the last thing that people think about us? Or does Ohio State come back, and do you feel like they're coming off a loss and they might need this win? So which way are you going to lean here if you had to go one way with Ohio State and Wisconsin?
Probably going to be Wisconsin by 4. Boy, they looked good against Illinois, huh?
Yeah.
Man, this is going to be a tough one. This is I can't pick this one, Gus, right now. I don't know. I really liked Ohio State against Purdue. They can't get it going. They get very hot and cold from 3, Ohio State. My reaction was whiskey, but I need more time. It's a tough one.
I am going to lean Wisconsin as well. The one thing I am looking forward to this, I want to see how Liddell matches up with the two longer, lumbering student athletes that Wisconsin is going to toss at him in the center. It seems like all he does is score on taller people. So I kind of want to see him do his thing and really work his craft. But I don't think that's going to be enough. I can see Wisconsin going a little nutty from 3 here, even though Washington from Ohio State is absolutely like finding his range and being kind of fearless with that 3-point shot. But yeah, if I was going to lean one way, I would definitely go Wisconsin. And then let's head out west. Finish up out west. We have 2 Pac-12 games and teams that we want to pay attention to. We have UCLA and Stanford. And if we just, circle the whole podcast back around, remember Stanford is actually one of the teams that beat Alabama earlier this year. And UCLA is doing this with Mick Cronin and no Chris Smith. And then we also are going to welcome back Oregon from the pause. And I think the Oregon State game might look a little bit like that Villanova-Seton Hall game and be kind of like a little bit of a dogfight and be pretty close. And then you look up and Oregon might squeak out a win at the end. Mike, where are you at with UCLA and Stanford and then maybe Oregon coming back? Do you think there's going to be a rust factor with them coming off their COVID pause?
As per Colin Wilson at the Action Network, there's rumblings of Williams and Davis not playing for Stanford tomorrow night, which would be tonight against USC, that there's internal issues within the team there. So Stanford, something to watch, little off kilter, lose at Utah, lose at Colorado. They were 8-3, 4-1. They're going to be real interesting against a USC team tomorrow night that just lost at Oregon State. So they're going to be angry. I kind of like UCLA. It's semi-home. It's at the Kaiser Pavilion in Santa Cruz. I don't like the way Stanford's going right now. And that rumor, I don't know if it's true or not. I mean, Colin put it out there, but I don't know. It's something to watch. I'm leaning USC tomorrow night, and then I'll base it off of that. But right now, I'd say UCLA.
I think so as well. I would lean UCLA there. And Davis hasn't played in a couple games, and Zaire had that triple-double, so you thought that, like, okay, Stanford is going to actually get something done. You got De Silva down low. It seemed like they had some nice pieces and some nice parts there, but maybe there is internal strife. Mike, is there anything else that we need to cover for the listeners out there? Or do you feel like you emptied out your college basketball mind enough here for the Screen to Screener listeners?
Only stuff for Sunday that I'm looking at. Rutgers, Indiana could be a massive game for both teams. Loyola Chicago Bradley is a fantastic matchup. Bradley struggled tonight with Bradley with a sort of mind-numbing loss there at Illinois State by 15. So they're going to be all sorts of angry on Sunday. That's pretty much it. Army Navy, of course, love that. That's all I'm pretty much looking at going into the weekend. You nailed it all. Really good game. Saturday's the stronger game, and that's it. That's all I got.
All right, listeners, you heard it there. If you really like what you're listening to, please don't forget to give Mike a follow over on Twitter at Randall Ranch. You can follow all of his college basketball interesting, mindful, and entertaining thoughts there. Don't forget to give the podcast a follow, the S Podcast, Efficiency of Keystrokes, of course, on Twitter. And let us know what you think of the podcast. Let us know via Twitter. Let us know via a podcast review on your podcast consumption vehicle of choice. That'd be really cool. We'd love the feedback, and we'll try to, cater to what people are wanting to hear out there. We'd love to help out and, at least, keep you company during the college basketball season. So we just want to say thank you, listeners. Thanks for letting us keep you company and take this little wild ride, which is turning into, bumpy and bumpier along the way for the college basketball season. And hope everybody has a great weekend out there. Cilantro, Gazzolazia.
I'm addicted to the appetite. side. We took a seat in advance, and you're cozy in the candlelight.